Hi, my name is Katie Bonin. Beginning in January, I'm going to be teaching 4th grade writing, so I chose to create my learning center focused on the word work my students will do in writing class to help build their vocabulary and make them better writers. I have 3 groups of students that rotate around in their centers. My first group is my blue group. These are my students who are performing a little bit below grade level and who need some extra support. These are often my Tier 3 students, my special education students, my dyslexia students that I will be sure to work with more one-on-one. Then I have a red group. These are considered my students who are performing at grade level. They do not need to see me as much, but they will still rotate through me as well as through all of the other centers. And then my last group is my yellow group, and my yellow group are my students who are performing above grade level. These are oftentimes my GT students and my students who in general just do really well understanding the topics and the concepts that are presented to them. I have 12 students at a time for 50 minutes. So I chose to create these learning centers that focus on smaller groupings because I'm only going to have 4 students in each center. My WordWork Center has 7 activities. Not all 7 activities are going to be in the center each week. Sometimes it's going to be a very limited number. Sometimes all 7 might be there. It just depends on what we're focusing on this week. The first assignment that I created for my WordWork Center is a word wall scavenger hunt. In my classroom, I have a word wall that takes up the entire bank of lockers that's in my classroom. Since my students aren't in there as a homeroom and they come to me for small group instruction, they don't utilize the lockers for their backpacks and things, so I chose to turn them into my word wall instead. I was going to film this video in my classroom so that you could see it in its entirety, but due to the ice this week, I had to make this in smaller form, and it's now in my house so that everyone can see it. My word wall is divided out into themes or categories rather than alphabetical order. I did this because I think 4th graders need to see the importance of words being grouped together in the themes and categories that they see in everyday life. The 4 I've chosen to highlight with the activity I've created are snap words. These are the words that I expect my students to be able to spell in a snap. I don't want them to have to think about it. I don't want them to have to stretch them out, sound them out, chunk them, break them into syllables, nothing like that to spell them. They should know them right off the top of their head, and they should be spelled correctly every time that they use them in their writing. The other themes or categories that I chose are math, science, and social studies. These are words that I get directly out of the curriculum that we're supposed to teach out of. So these are all the words they're using in the other subject areas that they're currently talking about. This way they get to see the correlation between the subjects and hopefully begin to use some of these words in their writing as well. This is the word wall scavenger hunt. On the word wall scavenger hunt, they are given a definition. For example, a person who has strong liking for and trust in another. And then they're going to have to go to the word wall and search for the word that they think best fits that definition. In this case, the word would be friend. So they would write friend in the blank. Friend was found under the snap words section, and they would need to write it down and tell me where they found it. Also, I make sure that my word wall scavenger hunts use words from each of the categories represented on the word wall. So sometimes they may have 12 words, sometimes they may have 15 words. It just depends on the categories that we're currently using on the word wall because they change constantly. The next assignment that I have on my WordWork Center is their Right Source book. This is a district-required resource. The students must use it once a week to help hone in on their grammar skills. Sometimes they may be working on punctuation rules. Sometimes it may be capitalization rules, spelling rules, independent and dependent clauses. It just depends on what we are focusing on for the week. My students next week are actually going to be doing the independent and dependent clauses part of their Right Source skills book to help concrete in what we did this week while reading about the weather and using independent and dependent clauses. They are required to use this. It's in our district curriculum blueprint for each week, so I must show evidence that the students are using this once a week, so therefore I've put it in the WordWork Center. It's something that's there every week, and they will have to complete it each week. The next assignment is also a weekly part of the WordWork Center. It never changes. It's here every week, and this is their spelling tic-tac-toe. Their spelling words change each week, And each of my students has the same spelling list, except for my special education students who have a shorter list, as well as my dyslexia students. The dyslexic interventionist does come in and choose certain spelling words off of the list that those students are going to focus on. During the spelling tic-tac-toe, each of my groups also has a different set of assignments. For example, my blue group, the students that are performing slightly below grade level, have their own tic-tac-toe. In their tic-tac-toe, the assignments are simple. They're going to be write them 3 times each. Use them in a sentence. Use colors to write your words. They're very simple tasks that may not pose a problem for other students, but are going to take these students a little bit of time. So their tic-tac-toe is very simple. They can go horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. It does not matter to me, but they must complete 3 of them, and they are due by Friday. My red group has the same sort of setup. They can go horizontally, diagonally, or vertically. They must complete 3 activities, and it's due by Friday. The only difference is their activities are a little bit more complex. They're going to write them 5 times each. They're going to have to come up with rhyming words. They're going to have to write their words in cursive. Then they have an option called hidden pictures. This is where they're going to draw a picture, and then the students have to hide their spelling words inside this picture and have a partner locate all of the words within their picture. The last spelling tic-tac-toe that I have is for my yellow group. These are my students who are achieving above grade level. They have a different spelling tic-tac-toe altogether. They have activities that are divided out into tiers. There's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. They are only allowed to go vertically or diagonally because they must complete a tier 1 activity, a tier 2 activity, and a tier 3 activity each week in order to receive credit for their spelling contract. Also, they have different activities altogether. For example, they're going to have to use a thesaurus to look up the synonyms or the antonyms for the words they have for spelling that week. They're going to have to create an unscramble worksheet where they have the words scrambled and they have to have a partner unscramble them. They're going to create riddles for their spelling words that they're going to provide the answer key with me, but I'm going to see if I can guess the answers to the riddles. And then last, they have the option of using the fill-in-the-blank worksheet that goes along with their spelling words to complete that as part of their tic-tac-toe as well. So those are very differentiated according to my groups. The spelling tic-tac-toe never changes, the words do, and the complexity changes as well. The next assignment that I have is quite a fun assignment. My students actually really enjoy it. I go and get these little paint strips from Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, wherever it is that you want to find paint strips from. I cut the names of the colors off, and then I write commonly used words in their writing. These are the words that they use too much in their writing, like big, small, walk, talk, all of those words that they use over and over and over again, and that the reader gets tired of hearing, repeatedly. So, for example, I have big on this card. They would have big, they would have a dry erase marker, and they would have to look in the thesaurus. I do have kid-friendly thesauruses in my classroom. But they would have to look in the thesaurus for big. Then they would have to write 2 synonyms on the card. For example, they may write enormous. They may write gigantic. And then they're going to turn their cards into me at the end, and then I'll erase them once I've checked them and made sure that they're correct. The next activity I have is Scrabble Flash. This is a game that our principal purchased for each classroom to go in the WordWork Center. And so she bought them to help make our kids have to think a little bit quicker and on their feet a little bit more. So these are just like Scrabble, it's going to give them 5 letters, and they have to rearrange the letters and make them touch to create words. The words have to be 3 letters or more, up to 5, and then they are going to try to create as many words as they can in the given amount of time. This is just to help them learn how to unscramble letters quickly, think of new words quickly. It's just to really kind of get them thinking about the words that they use, the words they know how to spell, and make them really concentrate on doing a focused activity with words. The next activity that I have is on an iPad. It is an iPad app called Storylines. In Storylines, they do this in groups of 4. One person is going to start a story. It may say, one sunny day when, so they would type that. One sunny day, when, and then they're going to pass it. The next person is going to have to draw a picture for one sunny day when. So they could draw whatever they want. And they're going to pass it to the third person, who now has to create a caption based on the illustration they see. So I might say, the beach. Now that they've created their story, they're going to be able to see the whole story. It will say what the first person wrote. Then it will show the illustration. And then it will show the next part of the story. This is just so students see how their perception of a story changes based on the visuals that they have. It also gets them used to creating stories from the pictures that they see. A lot of times on STAR prompts, they're given a picture, and they have to create a story based off the picture that's represented for that prompt. So this is to get them used to seeing a picture for something and then being able to create a story from that picture. The last activity that I have is one of my favorites. This is another activity that is in my WordWork Center every week because they're so good and kids love doing them. These are word ladders. Word ladders are exactly what they sound like. They're a ladder that is filled with words. There is always a word that starts the ladder at the bottom. Then they have to follow the directions at each rung until they reach the top. For example, this one is going to start with nickel at the bottom. By the time they work all the way to the top, they will be left with the word dime. Okay? Sometimes they're asked to change one letter. Sometimes they're asked to use a rhyming word. Sometimes they're asked to use a homophone or a homograph. It just depends on whatever instructions are in the box. I have different word ladders for each of my ability groups. I do have a set for my blue group, my red group, and my yellow group. They're labeled in the top by the dot in the upper corner. My blue group is oftentimes going to have a third grade word ladder. These are ladders that they're going to pose a challenge to them even though they're third grade, but I want them to experience some form of success, so it set them up to succeed by doing them. The red group is going to have a normal fourth grade word ladder. These are word ladders that are right on their level. They're words that they're going to be using currently and words that are going to come fairly easy to them. And then my yellow group is going to have word ladders that may be at a fifth grade level. They're going to have word ladders that are a little bit more complex or a little bit more subject-oriented. For example, this one is about money. They have another one about directions. And then the last one that they have is about precipitation, which is something they're talking about in science right now. So the yellow group really has a more specialized set of word ladders that focus on the content and the curriculum that they're learning and not just building their vocabulary skills. Sometimes I may throw in other assignments too. It just depends on what's going on that week. Sometimes I do throw in where we just use a thesaurus to look up words and synonyms and not really write them on the paint cards because I need them to understand how to use adjectives in their writing. But I chose to highlight these activities because these are the ones that I go to most often, and these are the ones that my students truly enjoy. I hope you've enjoyed my Learning Center as well, and thank you for watching.